if you're on a team where the leadership seems to be somewhat toxic, how do you determine when is the appropriate time to, try to stick around and make a change and try to influence change in the organization? And, when and how would you do that? And when would you say, just like, I just need to leave? So, so that's the question for this week: how to deal with a culture where there's some toxicity and it's stemming from senior leadership. So, just to provide some optimism here, there is definitely a possibility to make a change. So the big question is, how important is it to you? How much was it worth it to you to make an impact? If it's a large organization and you're kind of close to the top and you realize, oh, wow, if I help this organization, there's just so many people that are going to be impacted, and you feel like that's worth your time. That's kind of a calling for you. To me, the balance is, to what degree do you think you can do that before it starts really taking a negative impact or making a negative impact on your well-being and your performance in your current role? Because if you feel like, if you take an honest assessment and you realize, like, I don't know if I can take this on without having a significant negative impact for a decent amount of time on my well-being and on my performance, then it's probably not in your best interest to stay. It's probably in your best interest to do the best you can while you're there and find a different team or organization to be a part of. But if you make the assessment and you say, well, look, I think I could start making some significant progress in a short matter of time, maybe a year or 2 years or less, somewhere in there, and you feel like it's a good project to take on, my guidance is pretty simple, and that is to get results leading in the way that you would like to see other leaders lead. And I'll just give you a case study. This is actually a client of mine that they had invited me to come in and do a keynote for their annual leadership meeting. And this guy, he's not super junior. He has P&L responsibility over $1 billion business unit, but it's in an enormous company. So one of the largest companies in the world. So he still has quite a few layers above him as you move from, he was part of a small financial advisory company that was acquired by this giant company. So they're, basically he was the Southern division of just the United States division of an international company that does a lot more than financial advising. So there's all types of things this company does. So I guess relatively speaking, he's junior. He's got quite a bit of hierarchy above him. So, his approach was very, very simple. His approach was, look, I see so much room for improvement in terms of how leaders in this organization lead. I'm just going to do this by example. And he knew that he had enough leaders reporting to him that he could certainly have an impact on them. And if he got results, he could make an impact for the people that he reported to and up the chain. So his approach, he's a huge fan of an approach to leadership you may have heard of called servant leadership, which, even if for people that don't like that term, the basic idea is the core principle of what we talk about in People Thriver, which is our primary job as a leader is to bring out the best in our team. And doing that is not complicated. It's not necessarily easy, but it's a simple process. The process is you figure out, what do people need to thrive? What do they need to be great? And you help them meet those needs consistently. And if you do that, the team performs well. It's not really rocket science, but it's much easier said than done, right? But he had done this consistently for well over a decade, where he just really made it a top priority above everything to take really good care of his people, to make sure that they felt that he loved them, like a father would love a family. And his team outperformed every other division in the country by far every single year. And after a few years of this, of course, the senior management team started asking him, "Hey, Bill, what are you doing that's different?" And he started explaining to them, this is what I'm doing. And they started asking more questions and asking him if he would facilitate some peer-to-peer mentoring and some instructing for leadership development. And so he was able to make a significant impact in this enormous organization by making sure that he had a really strong balance between hitting the goals that were asked of him to hit by the people that he reported to, but doing it in a way that empowered his team members and helped them to thrive and really made a positive impact on them. And so by doing that, he was able to free two birds with one key, so to speak. You know, he was able to get the results that his organization wanted, and he was able to do it in a way that was very sustainable and was so successful that he was, you know, a significant margin above the rest of his peers. It attracted the attention of senior leadership, which allowed him to make that impact. So that to me is the most powerful way. You know, it's hard to manage up and say, hey, you know, like, I think you should be doing this differently. You can, it's just, it takes a lot of skill, right? To really understand the goals of the people who you report to. If you see things that aren't helping them achieve those goals, to be really skillful about having conversations that will help them make the connection between things that they're doing that are having a negative impact on employees, that are preventing them from hitting their goals. But actions always speak louder than words. So if you can achieve amazing results, not by working harder necessarily, not by putting in 80 hours a week. In fact, that's probably a recipe for disaster for just about anybody. The better way is to think, how can I create more leverage? And the way that you can create more leverage for getting results is developing team members, developing the people on your team. Even if you have managers that report to you, developing them and helping them develop their people, so that you're basically replicating yourself and creating a whole team of people that know what you know, have the approach to leadership that you have, and thereby you create a tremendous amount of leverage. You also create opportunity for process improvement, for innovation, things that are going to really move the needle way more than just additional hours. You know, putting in additional hours is a very linear one-to-one function. And it starts to become less than one-to-one over time, because as I'm sure you all know, if you are consistently working more than 40 hours a week, I mean, this has to happen sometimes. I know we have some people who are in a finance organization. You know, there are certain times a year where you have to put in extra hours, which is normal. Every organization has sprints from time to time. But if you're year round expecting people to work, you know, 60, 70 hours a week, it's not sustainable. And what happens is people are doing stuff, but they're not really producing things of value. The more leveraged approach is to think about, well, how do you create an environment where you're producing a lot of value? And that doesn't necessarily mean more hours. It just means extreme clarity on what are the most important things to be working on, making sure the right people are working on those things, making sure people are empowered to move quickly and make decisions on their own, make sure people are empowered to be improving processes along the way, running experiments that are well thought out and designed with minimal risk, downside risk, and high potential upside. All those types of things can help you not only help your employees to thrive, but help your team absolutely crush it. And then you start getting questions about, like, hey, what are you doing? Your team is very happy, they're engaged, but they're also performing extremely well. How do we have this balance of taking very good care of team members, helping them to grow and to thrive, while also striking this balance of hitting deadlines, you know, having high levels of accountability to performance standards, to the goals that we're trying to hit? I actually see these two things as definitely not mutually exclusive. In fact, they're deeply interconnected. So, you know, a simple way of thinking about this is, if we allow someone to be mediocre or to consistently miss deadlines or not perform as well as they would like to, we are clearly not helping them to thrive. Even people who have had a lot of time being mediocre, they've kind of just fallen into this habit of mediocrity. It almost might seem like sometimes we label those people as, oh, well, they just don't work hard, or they don't care, or they're lazy, or whatever the label might be. Even somebody who appears to be in that type of bucket, they might not be consciously aware of it, but what's happening to them is their self-esteem is declining. Their sense of satisfaction in life is declining. Nobody likes to consistently be mediocre. We all have this kind of inner drive to make an impact in the lives of the people around us, and that includes at work. So that impact drive or achievement drive is inherent in everybody. The problem is, for some people, they've been in environments where they've built up habits that lend themselves to mediocrity. And as I'm sure you're all aware, bad habits are very easy to start. They're very hard to break. And good habits are very hard to start, and they're very easy to break, which is where I see this actually as a huge opportunity for you as leaders of people. And that is that, the coaching industry, like life coaches and executive coaches, it is booming. And the reason it's booming is because none of us are perfect at holding ourselves accountable to who we want to be and what we want to achieve. And having a kind of a third party who's somewhat skilled at coaching people is very valuable for helping us overcome our own bad habits. This is why people hire life coaches. I mean, I know some CEOs have coaches that they're paying 10 grand a month to basically just have it's almost like a therapy session. They're basically just talking through issues. But there's a reason for this. There's a reason why, you look at the best athletes in the world, they all have multiple coaches talking to them every single day, giving them continuous feedback on where they can improve, where they're growing, how they can continue to get better. So this is actually something that you can provide, for free. It's basically a perk, to employees. The trick is, how do you do it in a way that doesn't feel like we're just a boss, and we're telling people what to do and when to do it. Sometimes that has to happen. So there's no question that sometimes that has to happen. But in the ideal world, what we can aim for is as much kind of mutual work towards setting goals and how those goals can be achieved. So for instance, in an ideal world, whenever possible, if you have really good clarity on what it is that you as a team need to achieve in the next quarter or the next year, whatever the time frame is, if that's really clear to you, and this shouldn't be like 100 goals. I'm talking about like your, maybe 2 or 3 most important goals. They're strategic objectives, basically. If you're really clear on what that is, then you can have conversations with your direct reports, ideally in one-to-one meetings, asking them like how they or their team, how are they going to contribute to this? Like, where do they fit in? And try to come up with goals together that they're excited about. So here's what we're trying to achieve as a team. Here's how you fit in, as you just described it to me. What are some goals that you think would help us hit this team goal, that would be challenging to you, that would be exciting to you, that would make coming to work fun? And if you can get team members to co-create goals with you, you can also help them come up with KPIs. So, okay, let's say we have an annual goal of this. What do you think would be an appropriate, what do you think are appropriate quarterly KPIs to make sure that we're on track to hit this? or if it's a shorter term thing, if this is a quarterly goal, what are appropriate, monthly or even weekly KPIs that would tell you that you're on track to hitting this goal that you're excited about. And sometimes team members might need a little help with this. They might need some coaching. But if you keep asking questions, you can help people to think through this on their own. And this can actually help clarify a lot of things for both teams. It can help save a lot of time, where if you're measuring the right things and they're the ones doing the measurement, then they don't feel like this is something coming from above that's just like, I got to do this because I was told I have to do it. There's buy-in to the process. So that to me is the general framework for kind of balancing this. Hey, everyone wants to achieve. If they don't, I mean, if it becomes really clear that you have somebody that just doesn't care, they don't want to, they're not excited about making an impact on your team or organization, I mean, that's probably somebody you're going to need to look at if you can't coach them to fix that, to help them find another team to play on. But most people, even people who have been underperforming with this approach, will get excited about goals that they set. They'll love the process of identifying their own KPIs. And you can even ask them then, what do you think is appropriate? I want to help you get there. I want to make sure you have everything you need. How often do you think I should be checking in with you on, your progress on these KPIs, and to see if there's anything you need from me, or if there's any obstacles getting in your way? And they'll tell you, like, I think we should check in once a week, or once every 2 weeks, or once a month. And if you're not in agreement, you could always push back a little bit. But the more that this is a collaborative effort where they're determining what they're trying to achieve and how to measure progress toward it, the more buy-in you have and the more empowering it feels to the team member. So this facilitates, I think, exactly what you're getting at, Grant, which is the person feels like you care about them. They feel like you're a leader and that you're not just a boss who's telling them what to do.